When it comes to difficulty in video games, I'm of the belief that, for the most part, it's all subjective. FromSoft games, for example, are often touted as some of the hardest in modern day, and while the large majority of people struggle with them, I've found them rather easy because I've been playing them a while. That said, there are a few franchises that most deem laughably easy. Bioshock, for example, despite sitting at the top of the nostalgia totem pole, isn't exactly as tough.
Shucks.
As I was saying, I wouldn't exactly consider Bioshock to be that hard.
Fuck!
If you're one of my usual victims, then you know the drill. I recorded and noted down each time I died while playing through 100% of the Bioshock series. With that, we're going to determine which game is the hardest in the series. Our adventure sets out as a documentary, with the lead actor having fallen asleep watching one of my videos. JK, he didn't do that. But we kick off with a peaceful, empty plane ride turned nightmare as the plane goes kaboom, kaplow, like our granny just got hit by a bazooka. Somehow, we survive, and conveniently, there's a lighthouse that we swim to. No gods or kings, only man. With that banner, we plunge to Rapture's shiny decay. We meet Atlas as he yaps via radio. Splicers gibber, emergency. We pick up our trusty wrench, which is straight up the most powerful weapon in the game when used right, but it's not used alone. To become overpowered, we need the electrobolt plasmid. Luckily for us, it isn't long until we inject the plasmid into our veins, and we can 1-2 punch splicers to our heart's content. On to the medical pavilion. We make it to the medical pavilion, and we get a warm welcome to Rapture's healthcare, where the waiting room is full of screaming and the staff has strong opinions about our face. This is the second stop in the game, and it's where Bioshock teaches us the city's core business model: pain, then upgrades. Once we make it to the medical pavilion, we have to hunt down Dr. Steinman for his Blastsphere key to blast out to Neptune's bounty and save Atlas's family. Why? Well, Rapture's utopia is crumbling, and Adam has turned the doctors into /happy artists and patients into freaks. Progress here means surviving the madness. While we hunt down Dr. Steinman, what did I do to 100% this run? Well, it starts by maximizing our Adam, which means we have to save every little sister. In addition to saving every little sister, I have to make sure I get every single weapon upgrade. I also make it my goal to pick up every plasmid you can. Unfortunately, there isn't enough Adam to go around to unlock all plasmids, but I did maximize all the Adam I could get, so that'll just have to do. So, we prowl the gore-drenched clinic. This was once Ryan's pride. Now, it's Splicer Central. We vacuum up the fixings, which is the survival juices, incinerate plasma tonics like Hacker's Delight, Security Expert, Speedy Hacker, Static Discharge, and Wrench Jockey. Here we save 2 little sisters, which of course means we have to fight our first few big daddies. Once we've collected everything and taken care of Dr. Steinman, we're off to Neptune's bounty. Welcome to Neptune's bounty, the part of Rapture that answers the question nobody asked. What if a fishery was also a crime scene and a photography class? The goal is simple. We meet Peach Wilkins, and he has an assignment for us. Spider Splicer photo assignment. And we earn access to Smuggler's Hideout, so Atlas can keep selling us hope by the pound. First, we grab the research camera from the warden's office. The game basically staples it to your hands because it is required for progress at this point. We load up on film and start taking photos like we're building a scrapbook called Reasons This City Should Be Condemned. When Peach demands 3 Spider Splicer pictures, we don't have to overthink it. We get close, keep the target in frame, and take action shots, all while they're actively trying to remodel our skull. We get better grades. With better grades, we get faster research and fewer regrets. On our route, we hit the power to the people station in Fontaine's Fisheries and upgrade the shotgun because this upgrade reduces the thing that we're probably going to die to the most, which is close range panic. We sweep up the free tonics, rescue all 3 little sisters, and leave with the grenade launcher ready for crowd control. Because Neptune's bounty loves groups and hates your personal space. Of course, because we're about as strong as an overcooked noodle at this point, the Big Daddy punished us along with some of the splicers, so we racked up a few deaths here. But we persevered and returned the pictures to Peach and make our way to Smuggler's Hideout. Once we make it to Smuggler's Hideout, our objective is simple. Reach the submarine holding Atlas's family and prep it for our escape from the city. Simple, right? Well, Andrew Ryan has a different plan for us. He blows up the sub with Atlas's family, and we have to fight our way out to safety in Arcadia. With the With this major setback, we have to devise a new plan. Arcadia is the city's lungs. It's also the most expensive houseplant. Meaning, of course, Ryan predictably turns breathing into a paid subscription. We arrive from Smuggler's Hideout into a forest at the bottom of the ocean, which is objectively cool until it starts trying to kill us. Arcadia is where we run into a new breed of splicers, the Houdini splicers. These splicers are a knockoff of Nightcrawler. They teleport left and right, making it hard for us to get up close and personal, but with a little research, they get weaker while we get stronger. Route-wise, we push through the tea garden and the tree farm because the second power to the people station sits in the tree farm on the left as you head towards Farmer's Market. We again upgrade the shotgun because we're playing the classic Bioshock style of diplomacy, which is 2 shells and a prayer. Then we head into Langford's research laboratories to pick up the chemical thrower. This weapon turns fights into a continuous stream of consequences at the small cost of ammo disappearing faster than our ethics in Rapture. We finish by clearing the 2 little sisters and pocketing the level's key tonics. We leave Arcadia stronger, and the city leaves Arcadia slightly more on fire. Everybody wins in the worst way. Arcadia is choking because Ryan decided the forest was a political opponent. So, we sprint into the farmer's market, which is what you get when you combine a grocery store, a war zone, and a very aggressive beekeeping seminar. Our job is to assemble the Lazarus vector. Translation: collect 7 enzyme samples, 7 distilled water, and 7 chlorophyll solutions. The game doesn't want us to feel smart, it wants us to feel like an unpaid intern doing fetch quests for a dead ecosystem. We go to the Silverwing Apiary, and this is for the enzyme samples, aka honeybee spit, in collectible form. We take pictures here to keep up on our research because everything in the city is either a science project or a lawsuit. Then we head to Worley Winery for distilled water. While we're down there, we hit the level's power to the people machine. It is in the cellar bottom floor, sitting in the water like it's ashamed of our spending habits. Here, we get another weapon upgrade, and before we leave to lock in a 100% checklist, we pick up Photographer's Eye in the wine cellar shack and snag Eve-Link 2 in the lower market area next to the Circus of Values and U-Vent. We rescue a single little sister in this level, then craft the Lazarus Vector out of U-Vent and march back to Arcadia to bully Ryan with botany. With things going swimmingly, of course, we get detoured by an egocentric and demented artist, Sandra Cohen. He cuts us off from both Atlas and Ryan, jamming the radios, locking the exits, and basically saying we don't get to leave until we help him finish his little pet project. Translation: welcome to the art district where the tickets cost bodies. Cohen must be taking notes from the Sith and the Rule of Two because we are his new disciple now, but the problem is he has a whole collection of old disciples taking up space. So our initiation is simple. Go kill the previous favorites before we earn the privilege of freedom. The job is not to just murder either. It's a curated murder. Cohen has us kill all of his ex-disciples, photograph their bodies, and mount the photos in his art display, like we're doing a gallery install of a very questionable HR department. Since we can happily embrace a villain arc, we oblige and clean house. While we're at it, we handle the real 100% work, which is rescuing 3 little sisters, meaning 3 big daddy fights, in a district that loves ambushes and tight hallways. We do them as we go so we don't have to backtrack through the neon chaos later. And because Rapture always bribes us for compliance, Fort Frolic pays out with a weapon pickup, the crossbow, which is basically the game handing you a quiet delete button for splicers at range. We also hit a power to the people station and upgrade another weapon because nothing says art appreciation like improved damage per second. Things start to heat up literally in Hephaestus. This is Rapture's power plant, which means lava vibes, anger machines, and splicers who look like they've been arguing with a wrench for 3 weeks straight. Ryan wants us locked out of his office and out of central control, so he puts his door behind an electromagnetic lock system and talks like he's already picking a spot for us on the wall. Subtle guy. Our objective is not to politely request entry, rather to cause an overload. The game solution is the Kyber's unfinished EMP bomb, a device meant to overload the energy core in Hephaestus. So yes, our VIP pass is homemade industrial sabotage, classic tourism. While we're assembling the bomb and moving through the core in the workshop, we do the 100% chores. That's 3 little sisters, meaning 3 big daddy fights, and meaning 3 chances to learn that molten steel and toddler protection programs don't mix. We also cash in on more weapon upgrades. Hephaestus has 2 power to the people machines, one in Hephaestus Core, right across from the Gatherer's Garden, and one in Kyber's office. Once we place and activate the EMP bomb, we overload the Harmonic Core 3, which drops the magnetic locks on Ryan's door. The city lets us in, not because we earned it, but because we broke it, but we broke it correctly. Then we pass into Rapture's central control, and the story escalates again because, of course it does. Rapture's central control is where we lose control, or rather, we learn we were never in control in the first place. We fight our way towards Andrew Ryan's office and the headquarters, expecting the usual villain meeting. Instead, we stumble onto a very tidy crime board plastered with "Would you kindly." It feels familiar because Atlas has been dropping "Would you kindly" like it's punctuation every time he wants something done. That can't mean anything, right? Right? Well, Ryan shows us exactly what it means. He lays it out like a smug philosophy lecture with better lighting. We were not a hero making brave choices. We were a puppet, programmed to obey! Whenever we hear the phrase, "Would you kindly?" The real joke is not even on Jack, it's on us, the player, because we've been doing exactly what the voice in our ear, Atlas, tells us to do since the Blastosphere. Congratulations on our flawless customer service performance. Mechanically, the level agrees with the theme. The door to Ryan's office is blocked, so you don't just get to stroll in like an equal. We crawl through a vent, because even as we approach, it's not our choice. We arrive on Atlas and Ryan's terms. To hear a monologue designed to make one point: freedom is only currency Ryan respects, and we're broke. We wake up in Olympus Heights, and for a half second, it feels like relief. Tannenbaum has helped deprogram our brain enough that we can finally stop being a walking voice command. Then Fontaine, formerly Atlas, reminds us that he's still Fontaine. He starts killing us the laziest way possible, by reducing our maximum health, like he's turning down a thermostat. Not damage, not skill, just the universe saying, you get less body today. Luckily, there's an antidote, Lot 192. It exists specifically to counter the mind control mess, which is both comforting and deeply unsettling because it means the problem was always planned. Our route becomes simple: push through Mercury Suites, grab what we can, and secure Lot 192 to break Fontaine's remaining hold. While doing that, we do the real 100% chores. Olympus Heights has 2 little sisters, so we take down the big daddies when we see them, not after, because we're already annoyed and half dead from the health reduction gimmick. And yes, we get rewarded for suffering. There are 2 power to the people upgrades. The first is easy: Mercury Suite's main square, center pillar, opposite the elevator doors. The second is in Sandra Cohen's apartment, assuming we didn't turn him into a permanent art exhibit back in Fort Frolic. We use those upgrades. By the time we have Lot 192, Fontaine's cheap health hack stops being a death sentence and starts being background noise. We leave Olympus Heights with more upgrades, 2 more rescued kids, and exactly 0 patience for anyone who says free will is a mindset. Apollo Square is the part of Rapture that answers the question, what if a housing project was also a war crime museum? It used to be a lower class residential space for workers, then the Civil War happened and the whole district got condemned to cage Atlas followers like the city was doing crowd control with real estate. Our job here is simple and humiliating. Find another sample of Lot 192 so Fontaine cannot keep yanking our brain around like a cheap marionette. The metro trolley is wrecked, the buildings are trashed, and the walls are covered in missing persons posters, which is a really efficient way to say everyone's lost. We also get a little tourism stop at Atlas's headquarters, aka the planning room, where Fontaine staged his Atlas era, like it was a grassroots movement and not a very enthusiastic con. The vibe is conspiracy board, but with actual consequences. Now the 100% chores, there are 2 little sisters, so 2 big daddy fights. We handle them, move on, because backtracking here feels like choosing sadness as a hobby. There's 1 power to the people machine in some chambers on the 4th floor, so we get it, and then we do a bonus tonic sweep as if we're trying to stay clean. Focus Hacker 2 is on the 4th floor, and Medical Expert 3 is in Dr. Shu Chang's free clinic in the Artemis Suites. Now that we've shaken off the mind control, we want to get even with Fontaine. Naturally, the game says cool, then immediately locks the next door behind little sister trust issues. The solution is not a keycard, it's identity theft. Tannenbaum spells it out. We want a little sister to open the door Fontaine just ran through, so we need to look like a big daddy. which is an amazing sentence to hear in any context. So, Point Prometheus becomes a shopping trip for monster parts. We're collecting 6 components to fake a Big Daddy package. Suit control system, Big Daddy bodysuit, Big Daddy boots, and a Big Daddy helmet, along with the pheromone sample and a voice box modification. It's like building a Halloween costume, except the materials are trauma and industrial seals. While we're assembling our new personality, we keep the 100% engine running. First, 3 little sisters in this level, plus there's also a separate little sister who guides us forward, but cannot be rescued or harvested, so we don't need to waste any time on her. Wrong NPC. We rescue the 3 real ones. That means 3 Big Daddy fights before we leave. Second, Point Prometheus gives us 2 power to the people upgrades. And now the best part. Once we equip the Big Daddy bodysuit, we get a permanent damage resistance, which feels like the game finally apologizing for earlier levels where a guy with a pipe could delete half our health bar. It's not a full transformation. In the lore sense, but it is enough to tank more hits and stop playing every hallway like a coin flip. Finish the set, let Little Sisters accept us as a protector, and then we walk through the door towards Fontaine and head straight to the Proving Grounds. We got an upgrade, and he ran. It was a bad trade for him. The Proving Grounds is where Bioshock stops pretending to be an RPG and admits it's an escort mission. The Memorial Museum of Point Prometheus got shut down and hastily converted into a training gauntlet for Big Daddies and their gatherers, because nothing says educational enrichment like 5 fire drills in the fossil exhibit. We're now a Big Daddy in spirit and dress code, so a little sister agrees to guide us. Here's the catch. She is so vulnerable, not implanted like the others, and she will stop 3 times to harvest. Adam from corpses because the condition is still running even if the city is not. Each stop triggers a big wave of splicers, and the museum adds extra spice with security cameras, bots, and turrets that will absolutely shoot her if we leave them unfixed or unhacked. So the strategy is unglamorous but effective. Walk ahead of her, hack the turrets in advance, lay traps at choke points before she starts harvesting. Then we stand between her and the hallway like a bodyguard of the world's smallest celebrity. The south exhibit halls are basically a long corridor exam with a couple of turrets and ambush angles. The north exhibit hall adds flooded floors plus a rogue elite bouncer who bursts in late to remind us that Rapture loves surprise guests. When we finally reach the special exhibit entry, she finally parts ways and gives us the tools we need for Fontaine. The elevator is right there. We made it. We're now qualified to protect a child through a museum, which is a weird credential, but it counts. Fontaine is not interested in a fair fight, or a fair anything. We reach his lair at the top of Rapture, and he does what every concerned liar does. He injects enough Adam to become a towering monster with 3 big plasma modes. Because why take responsibility when you can take steroids? Mechanically, the fight is a loop. He comes out swinging with a major plasmid power. We burn him down, and when he retreats back to the machine, we use a little sister needle to extract Adam and weaken him. We repeat until the tank is empty and his ego has finally run out of fuel. The tone is even funnier than the mechanics. After an entire game of Fontaine pretending to be Atlas, the brave everyman, his final form is basically Mob Boss discovers magic and immediately becomes a problem. He even tries to disable us near the end because of course he does, but the little sisters swarm him and stab him to death with their needles like the world's smallest union finally going on strike. Our 100% pays off because this fight was pretty easy. We rescued every little sister, so we got the good ending. So, in grand total, to 100% Bioshock 1, all the little sisters got rescued for the good ending. We maxed all our Adam, and we got all the weapon upgrades, plasmids, and tonics, and every power to the people, which resulted in 38 deaths. The absurd part is that a number of those deaths were not deep philosophical failure or tactical misplay. They were me getting cocky in water, forgetting a security camera exists, or sprinting into a hallway like I own the place. Rapture is an underwater city built on ego, and apparently I fit right in. Big picture, this run is not hard the way that Twitch shooters are hard. It is hard in the way that a haunted house is hard. You can absolutely dominate once your research snowballs start rolling, and once the Big Daddy suit damage reduction kicks in, but the game never stops trying to punk you with ambushes, hack turrets, and one splicer you swear was not there 3 seconds ago. And the story lands exactly how it should. We started as a confused tourist with a wrench in a plane crash. We learned "would you kindly" was not manners, it was a leash, and we ended by watching Fontaine finally get what all con men deserve. A room full of consequences delivered by the very little sisters he treated like inventory. The real question, though, is how does this measure up to the rest of the series? Bioshock 2 is a much prettier return to Rapture, but this time, instead of starting out as a scrawny hero with a wrench, we are the old nemesis from the first game. We are a big daddy, but not just any big daddy. We are Subject Delta, a prototype model built for one job: bond with a little sister so hard that the plot can physically yank you around by the heart. Your little sister is Eleanor, and the game makes it pretty clear that this is not a sightseeing tour. This is a custody battle in a flooded theme park. The big change is the power fantasy with rules. Dual wielding is now standard, meaning you can fling plasmids and fire weapons at the same time, like Rapture finally admitted that waiting your turn is for people who want to live. You get the drill, you get the rivet gun, and you get a front row seat to the sequel's thesis. The city did not get better, it just got louder and more personal. And hovering over everything is Sophia Lamb, the new philosopher queen of Rapture, who looks at the wreckage of Ryan's ideology and says, "Cute, my turn." So, the 100% run starts the same way every Rapture story starts. Something powerful promises salvation, and your job is to survive long enough to prove it is lying. After Lamb forces us to play a losing game of Russian roulette, Delta wakes up. The resort is ruined. Sinclair starts selling you the plan, and a big sister shows up to remind you this sequel has opinions about our health bar. We wake up in Adonis Luxury Resort, which is what happens when you build a luxury destination at the bottom of the ocean and then act surprised when it becomes an aquarium of regret. 10 years ago, we got put down during the New Year's Eve chaos. Now we are back, because Rapture treats death like a mild inconvenience and trauma like a loyalty program. This level is basically the tutorial, but in the specific Bioshock 2 way, where the tutorial includes a drill, a rivet gun, and the gentle suggestion that everything wants you dead. You learn the rhythm fast: plasmids in one hand, weapons in the other, and the drill is your problem solver when the hallway gets too crowded. Dual wielding is the point now. It's smoother and more aggressive, which is great because splicers are not here for polite conversation. Our real guide is Sinclair. He talks like a man who would sell you flood insurance after the flood. He wants us moving through the resort and deeper into Rapture because Eleanor is out there, and the bond is the plot engine. We're not just looking for a person, we're trying not to die because the story says so. There's no little sister harvest or rescue decision here, and there's no power to the people station to feed our upgrade addiction yet. So it's a clean loop. Loot everything, hack what we can, and treat early fights like a budgeting exercise. Every rivet we waste is a future moment where we are drilling something angry while pretending this was always the plan. And then the big sister arrives. The game introduces her early to set expectations. We're not the scariest thing in the room anymore. This is where we stop role-playing as a tank and start playing like we can bleed. As it is with most games, the beginning we are learning the landscape, what works and what doesn't. Unfortunately, a lot doesn't work in our favor early on. I thought protecting the little sister at the end of Bioshock 1 had its share of difficulties, and that was when we were all juiced up, so protecting the little sister this time around, when we are as strong as a soggy toothpick, is about 10 times harder. After our friendly run-in with the big sister, we're off to the Atlantic Express. We learn the train system, we meet Tannenbaum again, and Sophia Lamb introduces herself by trying to delete us from her new utopia. Atlantic Express is the second level, and it's basically Rapture saying, "Welcome back. Now take your public transportation into a city that hates us." We push into the derelict Atlantic Express depot to meet Brigid Tannenbaum, because she's the only person in this place who can say, "I made a mistake," without immediately making a new one. This level introduces us to the train system, which is the game's polite way of saying backtracking is now official, and we learn the routes whether we like it or not. The train station is wrecked. The posters are still selling a dream, and the whole place feels like a museum exhibit titled Progress, sponsored by Delusion. Our first big quality of life upgrade is the hack tool. In Bioshock 2, hacking is less minigame and more aim, fire, and steal their job. We use it early because cameras and bots start showing up here, and they will happily call security on us for the crime of breathing. We hack the cameras, we hack the bots, and suddenly the station security is working overtime for our custody quest. We also pick up telekinesis, which is perfect because Rapture is full of loose objects and bad intentions. We throw things, we pull things, we redirect grenades, and we pretend we're not enjoying it. Then Sophia Lamb makes her first real entrance. She's not subtle, she doesn't negotiate. She just declares us a problem and starts moving pieces to end our existence again. Because her utopia has a strict no big daddies policy. We leave Atlantic Express with the rails unlocked. Tannenbaum in play, and the clear understanding is that this sequel is not about escaping Rapture, it's about getting through it with our heart intact and our drill still spinning. Ryan's Amusements is Rapture trying to do family entertainment while actively drowning in its own consequences. We roll in to meet Sinclair, former businessman, current professional, opportunist, and he immediately hits us with the kind of helpful advice that comes with a hidden invoice. There's a giant wall of ice blocking our way forward, so our next step is to go shopping for arson. The park's genius business model is this: pay to enter, pay to leave, pay extra if you want to stop being frozen in place by an ice gate. Luckily, Incinerate is sold inside Ryan's Amusements at the Hall of Future, because nothing says future like setting things on fire to solve infrastructure. We grab it at the Gatherer's Garden, and suddenly the ice problem becomes a brief problem. Then Bioshock 2 flips the script. We're a big daddy, so the game decides our first major rite of passage should be fighting a big daddy. It's like two forklifts arguing in a hallway. We win, we adopt the little sister, and the tutorial wheels come off. Now we're defending her while she harvests Adam, which is the game's way of saying, welcome to parenthood. Please handle 3 waves of violence while your kid does crafts. By the end, we melted the gate, recruited Sinclair as our problem whisperer, and learned the core loop of Bioshock 2. Dual wielding, hack everything with a pulse, and accept that Rapture built a theme park where the exit gift is trauma. Popper's Drop is what happens when you take a railroad maintenance facility and turn it into a slum, then act shocked when the vibe is despair and a side of rust. The train station is locked down by Sophia Lamb's local governor, Grace Holloway, which means our next objective is political. Find Grace, get the override key. Try not to get morally evaluated by a woman living in a collapsing tenement while we stomp around in a drill suit. Before we do the story work, we do the 100% work because Rapture rewards preparation and punishes vibes. We grab the shotgun from Fishbowl Diner because the local greeting is usually a brute splicer, throwing a chair right at our face. Then we pick up the research camera inside King Pond and officially start the side gig of taking pictures of violence for profit. Our first must research target is the brute splicer, because the whole thing is clearing wreckage with raw force, and we would like to steal the idea for ourselves. Now we start vacuuming up single-use upgrades like a raccoon in a vending machine alley. Part of the People Number 1 is in Hamilton building on the 2nd floor down the hall from the El Amo Bandito. Number 2 is in Skid Row inside the limbo room behind the stage in a side room. Number 3 is in Sinclair's deluxe tenements, opposite the Vent Shrine hallway, past a connecting hall with a turret because Rapture cannot even give us an upgrade without adding a trap for spice. We spend these on our core workhorse and backup plan. Since we're dying to close range, we get the shotgun fed. Next, we scoop the level's key plasmids and tonic. Hypnotize sits at the limbo room entrance, perfect for turning a fight into a workplace misunderstanding. Hacker's Delight is above the diner across the makeshift bridge because the game wants hacking to be our love language. Short Alarms is in Hamilton's apartments near a desk. Firestorm is on the 2nd floor of the market opposite the pharmacy. Freezing Drill is on the sacrifice table in Sinclair's deluxe tenements, and Keen Observer is waiting in Grace's apartment in the pink bedroom, like the game is rewarding us for trespassing politely. There are also 7 Atom corpses in this level, which is both a resource and a statement about how well Lamb's leadership is going. We harvest them all because 100% means we leave nothing behind except trauma and empty syringes. Finally, we confront Grace Holloway. This is one of the first big morality check moments. We can kill her or spare her, and the game is going to remember. Either way, we get the security override and reopen the path through the station so we can keep chasing Eleanor towards whatever Lamb thinks salvation looks like this week. This brings us to Siren Alley. Siren Alley is what happens when Rapture tries to do nightlife during an active apocalypse. The district is flooded, neon is still blinking like it has a union protection, and our job is pure infrastructure crime. We need access to the pumping stations so we can drain the next train stop, Dionysus Park, because the train refuses to operate while the station is full of ocean. The city really said public transit, but make it nautical. Of course, Lamb does not just let us do maintenance. She sends Father Simon Wales, her fiercest lieutenant, to minister at us aggressively. He runs his own flock of the Rapture family, which is basically a cult that uses the word family the way spiders use the word home. Warm invitation, hidden teeth. Before we do any pumping, we do the 100% sweeps. First, we grab the spear gun. It's the perfect weapon for a flooded district because nothing says underwater confidence like firing a harpoon at someone who's already having a bad decade. Second, we cache our upgrades. Power to the People Station 1 is at the Mermaid Lounge tucked in a small room with a hole in the ceiling because even our upgrades live in sketchy corners. Station 2 is right before Pumping Station 5 in Lamb's office, which is very considerate of her. In the same way, it's considerate to leave a snack out for a bear. You hope it's not going to eat it. We spend these on our primary weapons and we move on. Third, we harvest the economy. There are 3 sea slugs and 7 atom corpses here. That is a lot of free atoms sitting around the city that claims it wants order. We take all of it because 100% means we do not leave value on the floor, even if the floor is underwater and probably haunted. Now we push to Pumping Station 5, fighting through spider splicers that cling to ceilings like they are auditioning for a horror movie, mini turrets that pop up like angry lunchboxes, and eventually the Rumbler Big Daddy who lobs explosives at us because subtlety is illegal in Siren Alley. We make the call on Daniel and Simon Wales. We hit the pumps and Dionysus Park starts draining. The water goes down, the train line opens, and we move on, leaving Siren Alley as we found it, flooded, violent, and still somehow trying to sell us a good time. Dionysus Park is Sophia Lamb's private retreat, which means it's an exploration of art and culture, curated by a woman who thinks mass brainwashing is a community service. The place is gorgeous in a drowning museum kind of way. Paintings, galleries, a cinema, and the constant background ambience of violence, because Rapture does not believe in quiet appreciation. We're only passing through to reach Fontaine Futuristics and Eleanor, but the game assigns us a new gatekeeper, Stanley Poole. He's the type of man who would lock the subway gates and then act like he's doing public safety. He refuses to let us access the Atlantic Express until we rid the park of all little sisters, so our main quest becomes a cleanup contract, signed in blood and atom. This is where 100% actually helps us. We're going to clear the little sisters anyway, so Stanley's big demand lands like a toddler negotiating bedtime. Fine, we do the route efficiently, clear each sister in the district, and treat every Big Daddy escort path like an ambush lane. Dionysus Park has a lot of tight corners and sightline tricks, so we hack what we can and fight where the geometry does not betray us. While we're sweeping, we harvest the atom bodies. There are 11 in total, and the park practically organizes them like an exhibit. Cohen's collection alone has 4 split between the main collection room, Lamb's garden, the carousel, and basement storage. Triton Cinema has 2, one downstairs and one up in the balcony. Imago Fine Arts has 1. J. Fishery Gallery has 3, 1 in the piano bar and 2 in the main gallery area. Then there's 1 more in the large gallery room between the Atlantic Express station and the piano bar. We take them all because we're not leaving currency lying around in a city built on addiction. Then we cash in on our upgrades. 1 power to the People Station is behind the locked basement storage door with a code of 1080, and the other is right on the path to the train, which is the game's way of saying we should upgrade now because the next stretch will hurt. Right before the Atlantic Express station, we pick up the launcher because we've been touring long enough, and the sequel wants us back on our industrial demonic arc. Then Stanley finally opens the way, and we could kill him if we wanted, but since I'm going for the good ending, we left him alive. We ride out towards Fontaine Futuristics, one step closer to Eleanor and one step deeper into Lamb's idea of culture. In Fontaine's Futuristics, our first checklist item is non-negotiable. Before the floodgate, Eleanor gives us damaged research, and it cannot be missed. It's the game's version of a care package, except the snacks are combat multipliers. Then the level turns into a light switch theater. We push into the second area and have to bring the power online because nothing says cutting-edge genetics lab like broken infrastructure we have to fix by hand. Once the lights are on, we can access the second power to the people station in the holding cells area bottom level. The catch is we open it by hacking a panel through a broken window, which feels less like hacking and more like breaking into our own upgrade closet. We also grab the first power to the people station once the locked security room becomes accessible. 2 upgrades in 1 level is the game politely warning us that the fights are about to get worse. We spend them on our most used weapons. Now we look like professionals. There are 12 atom bodies here. We harvest every one of them because Fontaine's built an empire on scarcity and we're not honoring his business model. We also collect 2 sea slugs during the underwater walks, one in a round scaffolding section on the right walk and one on the second walk after dropping down a hole up the stairs to the right. Then we clear up the tonics. Power Drill 2 in the Plasmid Laboratory, Careful Hacker 2 in the theater behind a coded door, and Vending Expert 2 comes chasing down the unstable Teleport Plasmid, which is basically the game daring us to play tag with science. Finally, the tone shifts. Alpha series begin appearing, which is Rapture's way of reminding us that we're not unique, we're a product line. And as we press deeper, we hit choice points tied to Gilbert Alexander and Mark Meltzer because the sequel loves asking moral questions right after it hands us a bigger gun. This gets us to Outer Persephone. Outer Persephone is where Rapture finally stopped pretending it is a city and admits it's a prison, literally. We take the hidden elevator down from Fontaine Futuristics and step into the outermost area of Persephone, Lamb's personal correctional facility and control center. The first hallway is pure mood. Barnacles on the walls, gurneys everywhere, old files scattered like the building itself filed for divorce. Then we cross the long glass tunnel over the abyss because nothing says rehabilitation like a science walk over a certain doom. Eleanor contacts us during the crossing, and for a few seconds it feels like we're about to get a clean rescue mission. Then Lamb reminds us that she wrote the syllabus. Lamb delivers her big power move, and she tries to sever the bond by smothering Eleanor long enough to break it. It is the kind of villain play that makes us stop laughing for a beat and then immediately start drilling again out of spite. We get dragged into the examination rooms, restrained, and the game pulls its favorite trick. It makes the horror feel beautiful by forcing us to see through a little sister's eyes. The place becomes a glowing fantasy, like a prison is a palace and the torture is just interior design. Here's the funny part. While we're controlling the little sister, we get 3 scripted atom harvests from bodies, and splicers don't attack us during these. The city is basically saying, sure, take your free money, little angel, no problems, no questions. It's the gentlest crime scene you'll ever look at in Rapture. Then Eleanor snaps the level back into reality. She wakes up in her big sister suit, shreds 2 brute splicers, cuts us free, and gives us Summon Eleanor, a plasmid that lets you call her into fights like the most aggressive family group project ever created. Before we leave, we cache the single power to the people's upgrade that sits right on the main path in Outer Persephone, and at the end of the long glass tunnel stretch, spend it on whatever we need most. And then we're on to the final exam, Inner Persephone. This is where the sequel cashes its checks. We're in the final level, deep in Persephone, and the tone is pure endgame. No pretty atriums, no more theater lighting, just prison corridors, locked wings, and the feeling that Lamb built this place to keep people in and keep secrets quieter. The first priority is upgrades because we're about to be asked to fight our way through the harshest splicer variants the game has. Elite Brute Splicers show up here, which is the normal Brute Splicer, but with more health, more anger, and fewer reasons to stop. So, we cash our last 2 Power to the People upgrade stations like we're spending the last coins at an arcade before the lights shut off. Power to the People number 1 is in the holding wing in the back of the room where Sinclair is being held captive on the left side. We do not leave that room without spending it, because Sinclair has carried our run on his sales pitch voice and we owe him at least the courtesy of improved damage per second. Then we face the Sinclair twist Lamb turned him into Subject Omega because her whole ideology is that people are tools for the greater good, and she treats friends the way Rapture treats vending machines. If we've been paying any attention, this is the end of Sinclair's arc, and the moment that forces a choice in how we handle him. Power to the People #2 is in the infirmary wing, just after Ward B inside the locked room with a heat-seeking RPG turret. The turret is not decoration. It's the game daring us to walk in like we forgot how corners work. We hack and disable it, grab the upgrade, and come back out with our weapons fully tuned for the last push. From there, it's the final match. Eleanor is with us. We summon her as our emergency action button, and the end sequence becomes the scoreboard for every moral choice we made across the whole run. We did not just build a loadout, we built a legacy, and inner Persephone makes us watch it play out. So grand total to 100% Bioshock 2, with every little sister handled, every Power to the People upgrade used, and every key weapon and plasmid tonic grabbed, every atom, body, and sea slug worth taking resulted in 38 deaths. The absurd part is that a number of these deaths were not from big sisters or elite brutes or some heroic last stand. They were from us getting greedy in a vending machine hallway, forgetting a turret was heat-seeking, or thinking we could tank one more hit because we're a big daddy. Spoiler, we're still extremely killable. We just look industrial. Big picture, Bioshock 2 feels smoother and meaner than the first. Dual wielding turns us into a walking problem solver. Research rewards us for doing what we're going to do anyway, and the drill is basically a counseling tool for splicers. But the game hits harder emotionally because the stakes are not abstract. We're not escaping Rapture. We're fighting for Eleanor, and every choice is basically parenting under pressure with gunfire. And the ending lands the way a good sequel should. Sophia Lamb tries to turn ideals into weaponry, Sinclair pays the price for getting involved with philosophy people, and Eleanor becomes the receipt of everything we did. The final scene is not just who wins, it is what kind of person we taught her to be while we were ripping across the city. The final verdict is Bioshock 2 is a prettier return to Rapture with a nastier combat loop, but the real upgrade is the story framing. The first game asked if we had free will, the second asks what we are going to do with it when we have it and someone we love is on the line. After our full 100% run, the only thing we are truly certain of, Rapture does not make monsters. It just gives them a drill and asks them to choose. The real question is, how does this measure up to the rest of the series? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with a friend so you can tune back next week where I take on Bioshock Infinite, where instead of fighting the risk of drowning, we fight the risk of falling out of the sky, hoping we can learn to fly before we hit the ground.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
Bioshock Infinite is the prettiest trip to a city that absolutely does not want us there. This time, we're not crawling through broken art decorum hallways at the bottom of the ocean. Rather, we're getting yeeted into the sky because someone in Columbia decided rockets are a normal way to process visitors. Gameplay-wise, we still do the Bioshock thing. Guns plus powers, except the powers are vigors and the upgrade economy is infusions instead of atoms. Game starts with another lighthouse on a stormy day. Booker DeWitt rides in a rowboat with a man and a woman in yellow raincoats who drop us off and immediately row away like they have done this bit 100 times. Instead, inside the lighthouse, there are 3 floors full of Comstocks, needlepoint quotes, and clutter, which is an incredible design choice for a building that is basically a launch pad. We have one job: bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. At the top of the lighthouse, there's a room locked away by a 3-bell system labeled scroll, key, and sword. The card tells us the code, so we ring the bells like we're playing Simon Says. The lighthouse sends out lights and tones, Columbia answers back from above the clouds, and the gate opens like we just dialed into the world's most violent voicemail system. Then we sit in the red chair, get strapped in, and the chair flips and turns into a rocket pod. Boosters fire, and we launch straight up to Columbia, where the vehicle lands at the top of the Welcome Center. Nothing says welcome like involuntary error. The Welcome Center is both an entry point for pilgrims and a temple to Comstock's faith, loaded with statues, stained glass, prayer candles, and offerings. The floors are covered in flowing water because Columbia's aesthetic is holy pool party. We get marched into a baptism ceremony with preacher writing, and he holds us under long enough so that we black out and wake up in the Garden of Eden. Subtle, right? The Garden of Eden is our intro to the town center. Town center is where Columbia tries to sell us heaven on earth with the confidence of a timeshare salesman. We step out of the Welcome Center into the Garden of Eden, and for about 5 seconds, it looks like we accidentally loaded into the wrong game. There are reflecting pools, angel statues, rose bushes, and the kind of calm that only exists right before a city decides to lynch someone for sport. We flow into New Eden Square, which is basically the tourist hub, shops, food, citizens smiling like they've never heard of the word consequences. Monument Island is visible in the distance, reminding us why we are here. Get to the tower, get the girl, wipe away the debt. Nice and clean. Columbia hears that and immediately says no, detour. We detour through the fairgrounds, which is a carnival designed to show off Columbia's greatest inventions: skylines, automated horses, propaganda floats, and a bunch of vigor boosts that look like the state fair if the state fair sold bottled witchcraft. We snag possessions from a hawker because Columbia hands out mind-controlled the way Costco hands out food samples. We use it to take over the admissions machine because nothing says freedom like bribing a robot to let us in. Then we walk the path of the scroll to Raffle Square, where everyone is singing and clapping and the energy is wholesome until it becomes extremely not wholesome. We get pulled into the raffle, grab a baseball, and win the lucky number 77. Congratulations. Our prize is a public stoning of an interracial couple. Columbia really said family fun and meant it in the early 1900s racist kind of way. We choose not to throw the ball because we're here for a rescue mission, not hate crimes with audience participation. But the city doesn't care about our morals. Someone spots the brand on our hand, panics about the false shepherd, and suddenly every cop in the square wants to turn us into a cautionary tale. We grab a skyhook, turn self-defense into a contact sport, and sprint out of Columbia, upgrades from church picnic to riot mode in about 3 seconds. We leave town center with one lesson. Columbia is gorgeous, polite, and deeply committed to violence, as long as the violence has a parade float and a hymn to go with it. On the run, we now make it to Comstock Center rooftops. And this is where Columbia stops being a postcard and becomes a rooftop obstacle course with live ammunition. We just escaped the raffle incident, and now every founder with a gun is hunting us. So naturally, our path forward is across chimneys, generators, and rooftops that were not built for a guy sprinting with a skyhook and unresolved trauma. First, we cut through the blue ribbon for a brief breather, which Columbia interprets as an invitation to get weird. The Lutece pair shows up again and hands us a shield upgrade like it's a complimentary mint, except it's a magnetic field that saves our life for about 30 seconds. Thanks, mysterious physics twins. Very normal customer service. Then the game teaches us freight hooks and skylines. Not in a calm tutorial way, in a way you learn this while being shot at way. We start leaping hook to hook and fighting on rooftops while gun automatons hover around like flying hall monitors with a grudge. Also, we grab a machine gun here because subtlety is not a Columbia value. Now the fun part. The level gives us Murder of Crows, which is exactly what it sounds like. We throw a cloud of angry birds at people and they panic like Columbia discovered nature has opinions. It's the perfect power for a city built on sermons because nothing interprets a righteous charge like getting pecked in the face by consequences. And because we're doing 100%, we are also hunting infusions. This chapter has 3 infusions to grab, so we treat every side room and every optional house like it's vending machine for permanent stats. We don't leave free power on the table, not in a city that is already trying to throw us off it. Route-wise, we bounce through the Landstone residence, Montgomery residence for a few supplies and side loot, and then we are pushed towards the Fraternal Order of the Raven because Columbia loves secret clubs almost as much as it loves public violence. By the end, we are still alive, still climbing, and now armed with both a machine gun and a portable bird problem solved. This brings us to Monument Island, the part of Columbia that stops pretending it's a city and admits it's a religion with zoning laws. It's built around 2 things: the gateway where pilgrims arrive, and Monument Tower, the actual home and cage of Elizabeth. The whole place is plastered with warning signs about the false shepherd, which is a fun moment because the false shepherd is us, and we're currently speed walking towards the tower like we're late for an appointment. The vibe is abandoned attraction meets active manhunt. Columbia is basically saying, welcome, please don't touch anything. Also, we will shoot you. 100% check before we get dramatic. Monument Island has an infusion to grab, and every early game infusion goes straight towards our shield since that recharges on its own. I thought, well, if I'm trying to minimize deaths, I might as well make it as easy as possible. We take it now because nothing says survival like free stats, and because the game loves hiding them in places that are easy to miss if we sprint past the scenery. Then we push to Monument Tower itself. The tower is split between public demonstration space and private observation rooms, which is a very polite way to say the city is built a museum exhibit around a human being. We move through the lobby and exhibits, fight off security like we're disrupting a church service, and climb deeper until we finally reach Elizabeth. We also discover the siphon and Elizabeth's terror abilities, so we free her and immediately get punished by Songbird, demolishing the place during our escape. And here's the twist. Elizabeth is not just a prisoner, she's the story engine. Once we get her out, the whole game changes. She opens locks, tosses us supplies, and starts pulling tears later. But right now, the main thing is that she follows us out because she wants out more than Columbia wants her in. Our trip can't be easy though, because the already mentioned Songbird shows up. The giant metal bird does not negotiate. It does not warn. It simply declares our escape illegal and tries to reclaim Elizabeth like she's property. The tower shakes, alarms scream, and Columbia's peaceful heaven aesthetic collapses into pure panic. We escape with Elizabeth, but Monument Island makes the point loud and clear. Columbia was never going to let her go. We were always going to have to take her. We end up crash landing in Battleship Bay, where Columbia pretends it's normal. We're on a beach that is literally manufactured, complete with pumps and rain catchers feeding the bay, because even the ocean here is a controlled asset. There are food stalls, boating, little leisure attractions, and citizens lounging around the city like it's not actively hunting us. We get a moment to breathe, which is Columbia's way of setting up the punchline. We spot the First Lady Aerodome advertisement and immediately decide our best plan is to steal an airship. It's the kind of logic we can only respect because it keeps working for about 5 minutes. Then the 100% brain kicks in. This level has one infusion, so we grab it from the ticketing booth desk at the arcade gondola station. Permanent stats are permanent stats, and we're not leaving free power sitting next to the cash register. Next, we hit the arcade, which is bright, colorful, and designed to indoctrinate kids while pretending it's a wholesome entertainment. It even has the first motorized Patriot sitting in a display case like a museum piece that will absolutely ruin someone's day later. Combat-wise, we pick up the China broom shotgun, and remember that Columbia's idea of breaching security is sending armed founders to detain Elizabeth. We remove their interest in that plan, then push onward towards Soldiers Field because nothing says relaxing vacation like sprinting from a boardwalk gunfight to the next district. Soldiers Field is Columbia's idea of a wholesome day out. It's an amusement park district packed with shops and attractions, each designed to teach kids that patriotism is best delivered through mascots and guilt. Welcome sign might as well say, pint-sized patriots, please form an orderly line or your lifelong worldview. We arrive with Elizabeth, still very much on the run, and Soldiers Field tries to pretend nothing is happening. Citizens mill around on the main street, but the atmosphere is uneasy because parts of the park are shut down thanks to the Vox Populi occupation led by Cornelius Slate. So, we're basically fugitives treading through a family attraction that is also a political flashpoint. Normal vacation energy, right? For the 100% momentum, this level is a shopping trip for power. First, we grab Bucking Bronco. It's the kind of vigor that turns a fight into slapstick, because we can pop enemies into the air like we're juggling rude strangers. It's funny until we realize we are the circus, then it's funnier. Second, the weapon pool expands here. Carbine, heater, sniper rifle, RPG. Soldiers Field is a theme park where souvenir options are precise, fire, long range, and we take whatever fits our current ammo economy, then immediately regret not having unlimited pockets. Combat-wise, the district starts mixing in more serious threats. Founder soldiers and police are common. Gun automatons show up to patrol skylines like they're flying hall monitors, and then the heavy hitters loom. Zealots and firemen appear on the list for this zone, the game's polite warning to us that the next areas stop being cute and start being violent on purpose. By the end of Soldiers Field, the joke lands. Columbia built an amusement park to sell a myth. and the myth is currently being contested with guns. We move on towards the Hall of Heroes next, because nothing says progress like walking from Propaganda Park into Propaganda Museum. We break into the War Museum to get Shock Jockey and power the route forward, while the exhibit tries to sell us historic history and the guards try and sell us death. Hall of Heroes is Columbia's favorite kind of building, a museum that exists to tell a story, not the truth. We walk in, hoping for a quick in and out, and the city immediately hits us with statues, banners, and exhibits that scream Comstock was right, in 12 different fonts. It's less a museum and more a propaganda gym where everyone comes to work out their civil delusion. The good news is that we're not here to learn. We're here to steal power, specifically Shock Jockey, because Columbia locked our progress behind an electrical requirement, like the founders took out one look at modern infrastructure and decided it was the devil. We fight through the hall, pick up the vigor, and suddenly we have pocket lightning dispensers that stuns enemies, powers devices. Perfect. We can now open doors and also ruin someone's day at the same time. This is also where the museum themes land. Everything is framed as heroism. The wars are clean, the violence is noble, and the ugly parts are politely edited out. Meanwhile, we are actively being hunted in the gift shops because our handmark does not fit the exhibit narrative. Nothing says freedom like being shot at while looking at a diorama. Mechanically, Shock Jockey becomes our best friend instantly. It shuts down annoying machines, stuns crowds, and lets us control fights instead of just reacting. It's also the least expensive vigor so far, so definitely a go-to for the playthrough. We leave the Hall of Heroes, the vigor in our pocket, the gondola back on the table, and strong confirmation that Columbia's idea of history is whatever makes the founders feel holy. We get on a blimp and set coordinates that Elizabeth recognizes as not Paris. So she throws a fit, and the Vox hijack our hijacked blimp. Now, in order to get our blimp back, we need to supply the Vox weapons so that with that, we're off to visit the gunsmith. This brings us to the Finkton docks, where Columbia drops the mask. Up in town center, everything was bright paint and hymns. Down here, it's smoke, rust, and labor exploitation with a nice skyline view to really rub it in. The docks feed the city, ships the goods, and chews through workers like they're disposable parts because they are, according to the people in charge. We show up with Elizabeth and the chase behind us. The dock immediately makes it clear we are in a different world. The Vox Populi presence is heavier here. The police are tenser, and every fight feels like Stop the Intruder, feels less like Stop the Intruder and more like Control the Workforce. Columbia's class divide stops being a theme and becomes a hallway we have to cross under fire. This is also where we get Undertow. It's the game giving us a new way to handle crowds, which we desperately need because the docks love tight spaces, railings, and enemies who think pushing us off a platform counts as strategy. Undertow yanks them back, pulls them off cover, and generally lets us rearrange the fight like we're tidying up. Violently. That said, I never really used this vigor. For a 100% sweep, this chapter includes an infusion, so we keep our eyes open for locked offices, side rooms, and loot paths that look optional. By the end of Finkton Docks, we have a new vigor, a clearer view of what Columbia is really running on, and the uncomfortable realization that the city is not split into good and bad districts. It is one machine. Up top gets the music, down here gets the bill. We move into Finkton proper. Start in the worker induction center as we push farther in to get the guns for the Vox. The induction center is effectively a human waiting room for disappointment. People are trying to submit paperwork, looking for openings, and machines carefully say, no jobs, quota met, please continue starving in an orderly fashion. This is not even villainy, this is a human resources as a boss fight. From there, we push into the district proper, and it's a long industrial sermon. Clock towers, statues, factories, armed patrols, and enough surveillance to make a confession booth feel private. The enemy list also swells here, with heavier threats roaming around because Columbia saw poverty and decided it needs extra policing. The real power spike for us is charge plus 3 infusions. Infusions are our long game. We scoop up all 3, then invest into whatever is lacking most in our run, which is always survivability. So, into the shield the infusions go. We leave Finkton proper with a clearer map of Columbia's hypocrisy. Up top, they sing hymns about virtue. Down here, they print money, then print pamphlets explaining why people should be grateful for the privilege. Shantytown is Columbia's reality check. We step out of Finkton proper, where the city at least pretends the system was work hard and rise. Then we hit Shantytown and the lie falls apart. This is a slum built from scrap, packed tight with makeshift homes, and it exists because the workers who keep Columbia floating are not invited to live in the postcard park. Then we get to the level's signature power, Return to Sender. It is the most pretty vigor in the game in the best way. We catch bullets and explosives, hold them like we're collecting receipts, then throw the whole package back at whoever mailed it. Columbia fires at us, we file a claim, and we return it with interest. For a 100% sweep, this chapter has 1 infusion. We don't miss it. We comb through the shacks, platforms, and side rooms until we find the glowing bottle of permanent stats, because if Shantytown teaches us anything, it's that nobody is going to hand us stability unless we steal it from a shelf. We leave Shantytown stronger and a little less naive, which is impressive because we started this run with a debt, a gun, and zero expectations that Sky City would be racist this loud. We push into the factory right after Finkton proper, and the vibe is immediate. This is the machine that keeps the city floating, and it runs on assembly lines, propaganda, and the kind of safety standards that would make an inspector faint. Story-wise, we're charging in alongside the Vox Populi because the revolution has reached the part where everyone stops giving speeches and starts grabbing weapons. The goal is to reach the First Lady and escape, which means our route is basically follow the chaos, don't get crushed by it. Now the 100% sweep factory has 1 infusion. We grab it immediately because permanent stats are the only union benefit we're getting in this building. Combat-wise, the level is Automaton Convention, Founder Soldiers, and Vox Soldiers are the warm-up. Then the support units show up. Gun automatons, barrage automatons, rocket automatons, plus the security zeppelin hovering around like an angry blimp with a badge. And if that is not enough, the heavy hitters are here too. Firemen, motorized patriots, and handymen, because Columbia refuses to let us have a normal workday. From here, we go to Emporia because we need access to Comstock's inner circle and the route that leads us to the prophet himself. We push into the rich district to close the distance to Comstock's house and the endgame. Emporia is Columbia's fancy side, the place where the sidewalks are cleaner, the shops are nicer, and the moral rot is simply better dressed. We come straight from the factory and immediately feel the tonal shift. The poor districts got starvation and batons. Emporia gets marble and security with slightly nicer uniforms. Either way, the city still wants us dead. It wants to look tasteful while doing. This is also where our toolkit gets meaner. We pick up Return to Sender, which is basically a magical complaint form. They shoot us, we catch the damage, we send it back with interest, and suddenly every firing line has to consider the possibility that an aggressively petty mailbox. Then we grab the fire hail because nothing says like refined district like handing us a new weapon and hoping we use it politely. We don't. For the 100% sweep, Emporia is a high value stop. 2 infusions means 2 permanent stat choices, so we search side paths, offices, and any room that looks like it's trying to be optional. By the end of Emporia, we are stronger, better equipped, and even more annoyed, which is the ideal emotional state for the next area. Columbia's richest district tried to act above the chaos, but the simple truth is the revolution reached the penthouse. Downtown Emporia is where the rich district stops pretending it is insulated. Emporia already proved the upper-class version of suffering comes with nicer architecture. Downtown Emporia adds the final ingredient. No one is safe, but everyone is still trying to look composed while it burns. It's like watching a dinner party continue while the kitchen is on fire. We move through the area because the story demands it. We push deeper into late game. Columbia, where every encounter feels like a set piece and every street corner is a firing line. The city is fracturing. The Vox and the Founder are tearing into each other, and we are unwanted guests. Keep walking through the middle of it like we're late for a meeting. For the 100% sweep, this chapter's main prize is the infusion. We don't miss it. We search every side office, every back room, every fancy storefront, storage closet, until we find the glowing bottle and take our permanent stat bump. Downtown Emporia is absolutely not the place to leave free survivability behind. The funniest part is the contrast. The banners, the polished signs, the civic pride, all of it is still there, still trying to sell the idea that Columbia is a shining city. Meanwhile, the streets are a war zone, and the propaganda is basically just wallpaper on collapsing buildings. We push through, grab our infusion, and keep moving, because at this point in the game, the only way out is forward. After a nice little reunion with Elizabeth's mother, we go to Comstock House to confront the truth behind Elizabeth and stop Comstock from controlling her future. We chase the conspiracy threads, get pulled through time, and lose Elizabeth Songbird, forcing the rescue pivot. Comstock's house is Columbia's top-tier flex. It's the founder's headquarters and Comstock's private estate, sitting on its own floating island tethered to Emporia. It used to be the home of Comstock and Lady Comstock, and then it got closed to the public after her murder and the maid's escape because nothing says holy leader like locking your mansion down and hoping nobody asks questions. We enter expecting a boss level vibe and get exactly that, except the boss is the building itself. The place is sterile, guarded, and designed to make us feel small. Columbia has spent the whole game selling Comstock as the prophet, so naturally his home looks like a museum exhibit titled "This Man is Definitely Normal and Not Terrifying." Gameplay-wise, this is where we stop treating Columbia like a series of districts and start treating it like a funnel into the endgame. We are past the tourist traps. Now every corridor is a choke point, every room is a set piece, and every fight is the game asking whether we invested our infusions like an adult or like a raccoon who chooses shields every time because it looks shiny. The funniest part is the contrast. Outside, Columbia sells heaven. Inside, Comstock House, the vibe is heaven has a locked basement. We keep moving, keep looting, and keep reminding ourselves of the one rule that matters in the series. If the prophet has a mansion, we're absolutely going to break everything in it. We free Elizabeth, and our new goal is to kill Comstock. So we do just that. On our way, and we hijack Comstock's flagship. We fight deck by deck through a full Civil War buffet and steer the whole flying church straight at Monument Tower, because subtle plans are for people who want to live longer. Hand of the Prophet is Comstock's personal warship, aka the final dungeon but in the sky. It's massive, split into multiple decks and stuffed with Patriot drops that spit out motorized Patriots like angry vending machines that only accept violence as currency. Meanwhile, both founders and the Vox are firing at us because the city is collapsing and everyone wants the last word. The only point of agreement is that we are the problem. We claw our way up to the bridge and finally get the real revelation. Monument Island was never just a tower. It's the siphon, the giant machine that has been suppressing Elizabeth and keeping her powers on a leash. So, we do the most reasonable thing possible. We decide to ram the entire warship into Monument Tower and smash the siphon, because why pick a lock when you can crash a cathedral into it? Then, the game makes us earn it. Luckily, the Lutece twins give us insight into how to control Songbird, so Elizabeth acts on it. We now have the super-powered bird on our side. Even with Songbird on our side, it's not a victory lap, it's a siege. Vox forces come at us with zeppelins and wave after wave of patriots like they're trying to win a loyalty program. We hold the deck, we burn through ammo, we juggle vigors, and after a brutal fight and 3 deaths, we finally reach the statue of Elizabeth and send Songbird to destroy it. The statue goes down, the siphon breaks, and then the whistle snaps, because of course the universe can't let us have a clean win. Songbird turns on us, and we get one last reminder that we were never in control of him in the first place. But this is the moment the run pivots from survival to payback. Elizabeth's full powers unlock, and right before Songbird can turn us into a red smear on the holy deck, she tears open reality and drops us into rapture. Songbird follows, hits the ocean like a meteor, and drowns. The biggest monster in the sky gets deleted by one thing: Columbia cannot out-preach. We land in the sea of doors. The epilogue hits, the implications ring out, and the game ends the way all Bioshock games end. Not with closure, with a question that follows us out of the room. Elizabeth shows us the multiverse mechanics and why Comstock always survives somewhere. How Elizabeth is really Anna, Booker's daughter. With Comstock always surviving, our objective becomes ending the cycle by preventing Comstock from being created, which means drowning Booker at the baptism he walked away. Big picture, Bioshock Infinite feels faster and flashier than the first two. The skylines turn movement into a weapon, vigors turn fights into controlled chaos, and Elizabeth turns the whole run into a tag team where ammo and heals literally fall from the sky. But the game hits harder emotionally because the stakes are not just survival. We're not just escaping a broken city. We're trying to rescue one person from a machine built to turn her into a symbol. And every step forward is paid for with a little more truth we were not ready to hear. The ending lands like a good Bioshock ending should. Comstock is not just a villain, he's a version. The Luteces are not just guides, they're the multiverse leaking. And Elizabeth becomes the reception for every choice in every timeline that keeps repeating. The final act is not about winning a war, it's about breaking a loop. The only way to do that is for Booker to erase the fork in the road that creates Comstock in the first. Final verdict, Bioshock Infinite is the series turning the question outward. The first game asked if you had free will. The second asks, what would you do when someone you love is on the line. Infinite asks what free will even means when there are infinite choices and infinite consequences. And after a full run, the only thing we are truly certain of is this: Columbia does not float because it's holy. It floats because it's running on what it did. All in all, to 100% Bioshock Infinite, we racked up 32 deaths. Early on, I thought Infinite was the easiest, and it was looking like I would have less than 20 deaths in total, but the difficulty ramped up towards the end as the ammo economy was harder to handle. But when compared to the other Bioshocks, it's still the easiest in the series because Bioshock 1 I had 36 deaths and Bioshock 2 I had 38. So the first two games are practically the same level of difficulty, but Bioshock 2 takes the crown for the hardest in the series. What do you think? Does this check out with your experience? While you're leaving your thoughts in the comment section below, let me know which series you would like me to play next, and drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay tuned. Until next time.